If I could ask you to take a seat. How's that? Look at that. The first person I have to force into a seat is the world's biggest unit. It's like, man, come on. Oh, it's a strong start, isn't it? I'm not backing myself. I think he'd take me. Friends, a warm welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. If you could join me in welcoming Lee Davison to the stage. Lee's Biripi and Gadigal man, and it's my pleasure to welcome him. He's part of the Aboriginal engagement team here in Sydney. Lee, there you are. Come on up, Lee.
Morning, Maritime. Geez, there's a lot of you here, eh? Maritime are taking over Sydney. So where have you all come from around the state? Ballina, out west as well, south. So it's an honour for me to be here to welcome you. Thanks, Angus and Alison, for inviting me. It's a privilege for me to talk to you about parts of my culture that I'm very proud of and mean a lot to me. I hope my talk this morning will give you a better understanding of where a welcome to country comes from, what it means to us, what it can mean to you, and help you better appreciate how you engage with your Aboriginal communities where you work and live. So that's what I aim to do this morning. I have to do a quick congratulations to a couple of the BSOs that received awards at the Celebrating Our People ceremony the other day, and also the team that helped out up north with the cargo accident. It was a really good event to be at. It was a proud moment for me, from our team to receive an award, but to see your guys receive those awards on your dedication and hard work was really good. Good event to be out to see. Also, a quick congratulations to the museum on their rebranding. It looks really good out there, and I'll have to come back and have a good look. Last time I was here, I was coming to have a look at the bark canoe that they've got on display, to have a look at their cradling for our Aboriginal bark canoe that we built at Rozelle earlier this year. So had a good opportunity to come down and have a look, and after that I went down and had a look at an art display from up the top end. It was really good to see. So that second look that I had was outside of working hours for all you taxpayers in the room. But also have to acknowledge a few people that you would usually see up here. You usually see one of three men doing a welcome for us. RMS Engage in Sydney, the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, and you would often see either Uncle Ray Davison, Uncle Chicka Madden, or Uncle Alan Madden, all Gadigal men, and they would usually be up here speaking to you. Uncle Ray Davison is my father's brother, and the other two men are their cousins, so they're my connection to Gadigal, Gadi country, and Gal meaning people of. So I grew up in Taree on the mid-north coast, Biripi country. That's my mother's country. Proud of my cultural heritage there, but I also have this connection to Gadi country. So my talk this morning draws on both of those backgrounds from up north and here in Sydney, and it draws on the responsibilities and obligations that Aboriginal people inherit, and so that's where I'm going to try to explain what a welcome to country is. So if we look outside here, we see the beautiful harbour, and the Gadigal have responsibilities and obligations to take care of their people, their families, and the resources. So Sydney Harbour being one of those main resources for seafood and material sources. They use bark canoes, so they use the natural resource to build canoes and their spears and fishing line and shell for hooks to catch food, manage that resource so they can look after their families. Another resource is the land and what comes on that land, animals, plants, and also natural water. So one of the big examples of that source of water here is there used to be a natural water spring that popped up around where Hyde Park is, and if you go down to Pitt Street or Hyde Park, you see the undulating landscape that shows that natural creek where the spring used to run all the way down to where Circular Quay is now. And so for thousands of years, Gadigal, one of their main responsibilities is to look after that resource. When Arthur Phillip came into the harbour, he came in because he couldn't find fresh water over at Botany. So he parked up, they sent boats in, and they found that natural water. So that's why they stayed where the city is now. So they built their houses along that creek, backing onto the creek. Unfortunately, they didn't appreciate it like the Gadigal did. So they were throwing food scraps, and their animals that they kept in their yards were also polluting it. So a Sydney Water representative told me years ago that within 38 years, that creek, that resource was so polluted that it wasn't able to be used for fresh water anymore. So I don't talk about that story to highlight the negative impact that those early European settlers made on that resource, but I talk about it to show my pride for how the Gadigal managed it and their understanding of their responsibilities, their obligations, and their intimate knowledge of their environment and the respect for sustainability for their people and their country. If we go north to where I grew up in Taree and Biripi country, I'll talk about my great-grandfather, Edward Saunders, who was a full-blooded Aboriginal. He lived a very cultural lifestyle, but also spent some of his life on the mission there at Purfleet, and he shared some of his stories with my grandfather and my mother, and I'll share some of that with you now. So he spoke our Gadigal language, and over the years I've learned a little bit of that, and I'm teaching my daughter that now as well. So very proud of that. But he had those same responsibilities and obligations, and one of those obligations comes from our strict kinship system, that our marriages were usually outside of our area. Very planned sort of system and marriage system, and so his obligations were to travel country into other country to the north, Dunghutti and Bundjalung and further on, to take part in ceremonies, initiations of young boys into men, marriage ceremonies. So he would travel north, and because he had his responsibilities within Biripi, Dunghutti had their responsibilities there. So he would stop at the border at an agreed location. We've got to remember that their life back then was very well planned in advance. So these ceremonies, his relationships with those northern groups were very close, and these ceremonies were very well planned in advance. So he would meet at an agreed location, set up camp, and wait for a Dunghutti contact to come down and meet him. They would ask him why he's travelling north, and they would grant him access and grant him. They would welcome him onto their country. So that's really where welcome to country really comes from. We see it today as someone coming up, an executive or someone important coming up to talk to a large group of people at a meeting or a conference, but he would wait there and wait for someone to welcome him on the country, and he would go through country, and if he had to go further north to Bundjalung, he would do the same. He would wait on their border for that contact to meet him and welcome him. So hope that gives you a better understanding of where that comes from. So as I'm really proud of that responsibility that they held over their portion of land or their nation, and they knew each other's responsibilities. They shared responsibility as well. They were often asked to take part with each other in natural resource management practices, culture burning, for instance. So there was some shared responsibilities, but as a Gadigal man, I can't speak for Gamaragal to the north of the harbour or Wangal to the west of here. So it's my honour to welcome you all here today on Gadi country. I extend that welcome to my Aboriginal brothers and sisters from whatever Aboriginal nation you're from, to the south in the Yuin, or west to Kamilaroi or Wiradjuri, to the north at Wabikal, Dunghutti, Warramai or Bunjalung. I acknowledge your cultural practices and your values that you inherit and that you bring to Maritime. I also extend that welcome to my non-Aboriginal brothers and sisters, and acknowledge wherever you come from, wherever your cultures are from, whether that's England, Scotland or Ireland or India, Greece, Vietnam, wherever that is. I welcome you here to Gadi country and acknowledge your values that you inherit. Once again, I'd like to thank Angus and Alison for inviting me here, and unfortunately I can't stay for the whole day. I'm going to stick around for a couple of talks and then I'll take off. So I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Very much appreciate that. Sorry, my name's Rob, by the way, just in case. I'm your MC for the day, and it's a real pleasure to be here. Lee, thanks so much for that personalising and explaining some of those things. I had a bit of an epiphany a couple of years ago. A friend of mine who's a filmmaker, a producer from Brisbane, we were down in Melbourne. He won an award for Breakout Producer of the Year, and he won that award for getting Sesame Street to go out to the centre of Australia with Jess Mauboy. And Jess was telling Aboriginal stories to Sesame Street and getting them out to the world. And this friend of mine, Indigenous filmmaker from Brisbane, stood up. He was super proud. He was pumped about getting his award, which is fun. If you get an award, it's always fun. And he said, he was talking about how proud he was. He said, I'm really proud of this award. I'm really proud. He said, Americans are great at getting their stories out to the world. And I feel proud that we're able to share my stories, my people's stories, with the rest of the world. And everyone was going, yeah, that's fantastic. And it was exciting. And then this was the moment that kicked in for me. He then said, but I want us all to be proud. Because they're our stories. It's our land. And in that moment, my entire relationship with Aboriginal history changed. For many, many years, I'd always looked at Aboriginal history as something that I needed to learn about, needed to understand, needed to empathise, because of what my white history and this horrendous series of events that have, you know, it's been a terrible, terrible history between our cultures in many respects. And I always thought about learning about that thing was about some way of appeasing some sense of ill-gotten shame that I didn't really understand, but it was always a sense of duty. That I would come, I'm doing the right thing now, I'm learning about Aboriginal history. And in that moment I thought, geez, that's not that at all. It's my history. My boys were born on Darkinjung land on the Central Coast. My father died on Darkinjung land. 50,000 years of continuous life is my history, and I don't know it. So then it just, the flick of the switch, it's all of a sudden meant, gee, I need to learn about my history. Not just learn about someone else's history out of a sense of duty. It was a real awakening for me. And empowerment. And that brought me to Aboriginal stories and history with a sense of joy, and a sense of curiosity, and a sense of enrichment, rather than something else with a darker shadow. And Lee, if I may, Benita Mabo passed away a couple of weeks ago. She was an extraordinary woman. I think her work, I spoke briefly about her work last year, tireless, a life spent trying to educate a world around her. Imagine the frustration growing up, knowing your culture, knowing your story, and it not being recognised as part of any constitution, part of any law. So I know that's a huge thing for Aboriginal Australia. It's a great sadness that it wasn't a huge thing for Greater Australia, because she really was an extraordinary woman. And I got to meet Benita Mabo when I was in the Mabo story, of course, playing a great white racist. Every story needs a villain with a face like this. That often falls to me. And so it's one of those strange things. Very proud to be a villain in a horror show, but what a great honour it was for me. So all my love to you. my friend. My friends, a warm welcome, and a welcome to all of you who've come from all over the state. We've got a great day planned for you. My hope is this town hall vibe will get a great sense of connection, a great sense of why we're all here, what we're all doing, so we can all understand what the Maritime vision is. Who are we? What are our roles inside Maritime, and how can we all work effectively better together so that our day-to-day feels like it's matching up with a greater vision. Ultimately, it's why we're here. It's very, very simple stuff. So a warm welcome. My understanding is you've come from all over the place. I'll get to that in a little bit, but first of all, a very special and congratulations and welcome to those people that came without a car. I know you may have had a car a couple of weeks ago. Now you don't. You know, stuff it. Well done. You didn't let that little hurdle get in the way. Apologies, Angus. Thought I'd smack you in the face first up. And for those of you that did drive here in a company car, thanks for saving us the trouble of coming and getting it. Leave the keys in the bowl. Sorry, that's a different party. It's all right. If you've got your car, you probably keep it. We're done on the cars for the moment. We're done? Okay, yeah, all right. So they know those that were on the list know they're on the list? No worries for the rest of you. All right, no problems at all. Terrific. And of course, a real special congratulations for anybody that came east of George Street and managed to get across the bastard. It's like the Maginot Line at the moment, isn't it? I mean, there's bollards, it's terrible. It's a horrendous thing. And we've got Ken Konofsky here later on the day, so we might ask him about the process. You thought you were careful about the tank stream, mate. We're careful about that light rail. By God, it's taken decades, hasn't it? So yeah, look, we do have a great year, and it is great to get together at the end of the year. I know it's the end of the year. Christmas is just around the corner, but oh man, it can feel a bit ratty at the end of the year. Oh, what's going on? So it really is a fantastic time for all of us to get together. I know about tough years. I've had a tough year myself. I remember last year I told you that all the various TV shows I've done, I tend to get killed and beaten and smashed a lot and die on TV. And so if I could just have the first picture. So this last time I got invited to Channel 7 to do a drama, and that's me inside the caravan. So that was a long time ago, that particular one. Anyway, I got invited back to Channel 7. Did anyone see Wanted, the Rebecca Gibney show this year? All four of you, fantastic. Isn't that a growth business model? Network TV, boom, buy shares in that. So anyway, I was in Wanted and I played a bad guy. Anyway, it had been like 13 years since I've been in a drama on Channel 7. And of course, you know, that's what happened the last time I was there at Channel 7. Anyway, they invite me back and they say, Rob, we've got a great role for you. It's just fantastic. It's Rebecca Gibney, one of our great stars. You get to be a lot of scenes with her. I said, this is fantastic. Anyway, you know how this ends up. Let's have a look at the next picture. So, I know. So tough times. I know, right? That's obviously fake blood, but I felt it. I felt every bit of it. All right, let's lose that photo. The last thing we need is a picture of me there. So I do understand, but it is a great chance, I guess, to get together at the end of the year and get a sense of what the year held. And it's been a tough year for many people. And being a student of literature, I really did enjoy yesterday when the Australian National University came out and named the word of the year. Did you hear about this one? The word of the year is Canberra bubble. So again, they can't count. That's two words. That's not there, but literature's their strong point. So the Canberra bubble. And it's interesting to reflect. Obviously, we've got a couple of elections coming up, and I don't mention that without meaning. State elections coming up, and that's putting pressure on a lot of areas that you work with. You know, sort of jumping left and right, and which way are they going to need you to go? So this is all a very big part of your conversation. And of course, federal politics is just absolutely, utterly nuts at the moment. In fact, we asked Scott Morrison to be here today and as our special guest, and he would have loved it because he certainly likes the work you do, but it's proximity to Circular Quay. All the boats keep coming, and they keep coming, and it gives him the yits. He can't. He does. Like, oh my God! It stresses him out. All those boats. They keep coming. They keep coming. It makes him so anxious. So he said, I can't. So then he offered us to send Peter Dutton. I think we said no. To that. Peter Dutton loves Circular Quay though. The boats that go riding don't hassle him, especially because they're all the cruise liners. They keep coming. He loves them. Imagine all the au pairs on them. Stacked with au pairs. And Peter Dutton loves that stuff. Absolutely loves. Until they find the au pairs in his dungeon, then it's going to get trouble. No, I never. I never said that. But I do mention the Canberra bubble in terms of that notion of tribe and how things can get a little bit crazy if you're not connecting. And Canberra, it does change people. It really, literally change people. We send them one Prime Minister, and then they change it and send back a completely different Prime Minister. We sent them Rudd, and they said, no, you got it wrong, here's Gillard. We go, all right, okay, we'll have Gillard then. And then we send her back down to Canberra, they go, no, you stuffed it up, here's Rudd again. Oh, no. And then we all vote for Tony Abbott, we send him down to Canberra, and Canberra go, no, you stuffed that one up, here's Malcolm Turnbull. We're like, and so we go, all right, so then we vote for Malcolm Turnbull, we send him back, here's your pick, and they go, tricked you. It's ScoMo this time. We're like, can't get it right at all. So there's this constant confusion with regards to what goes on. And the rules are different. It's like quantum physics down there. No greater example. Get this, right? Barnaby Joyce in Canberra is considered sexy. I mean, what world? What world? Was anyone else like, what? He's had an affair. Someone agreed to have an affair with him. You fucking... Just weird, isn't it? Don't get me wrong, for guys like me, middle-aged, balding, slightly pink, I see him as a trailblazer. I love it. I get down to Canberra whenever I can. I go down there, little chubby, little pink, little balding. Oh, mate, I'm a sex symbol down there. I'm a roll girl, sex, and then I tell them I'm married with kids. Boom, I'm like the third Hemsworth brother. It's true. It's insane, isn't it? Insane. Anywhere else in the world, you take that suit, that sort of balding, sort of middle-aged, pink, slightly overweight, a bit grabby with the staff when you get on the piss. Anywhere else, that's hashtag me too. In Canberra, hashtag yes please. We got work to do, don't we, Angus? We got to. So I wasn't going to do all that, but that's God love him. He's a stayer though, isn't he? He tell you what, there's tenacity. That's what we learned from Barnaby. So my friends, look, let them be. Today we are here. And effectively, we've got a very simple goal. There's so many people from so many different parts of the state here. And on that, who's come from a long way away? Just put your hands up if you've come from a long way away today. I know you have. So you come from Hawaii, judging by that shirt. Well, Honolulu. So where else have you come from? Bateman's Bay. Fantastic. Anyone else from Bateman's Bay area around here? Just you came by yourself, lonely trip. Yeah? A warm welcome. What about far west? Anyone from sort of far west New South Wales? Anyone? You're a bit shy. The idea being, I just want to get a sense of where you're all from. So has anyone come from a long way away? Bateman's Bay's not that far. I mean, I'm trying to egg it up, but and up the back. Yeah? Okay. All right. No, I love a mystery too, mate. I love a mystery. Agatha Christie's my favourite. Whereabouts far away? Mildura. And so looking around, is there anybody from not Mildura that interacts with this fella on a weekly basis or a monthly basis? Who in the room do you... From Bateman's Bay? You two do? Did you carpool here? What? You hook up and... Make right. So what's your connection in the business?
He's old.
You're both old. Well, Rebecca, we're about to hear from Rebecca Nietzsche with regards to our demographics, so maybe you're in the same pie chart over there. So, but do you perform similar functions? All right. No, fair enough. What I might do is get you to write that down and email it to me. So you're both boating officers, and so this is presumably during the year you don't get together too many times, just occasionally, or rarely. You just don't like each other. No. Well, look again, and other people. So the boating officers. Well, what other boating officers do we have in the room? Hands up. Okay, so a whole stack of you. So a warm welcome to that portion of this tribe. And then we've got education officers already. I can see Dave there. Dave, any other education officers from around the state? Because I know you're speckled sort of, do you see each other a lot during the year or not so much? Not so much? Well, I hope today you guys have a chance to get together at lunch and maybe go out for dinner and get a sense. I guess really today there's a huge amount of information on stage. And we're hoping that through the sort of things that are communicated to you, the greater goals of Maritime become clearer. And they allow your conversations at a day-to-day level to be clearer and more effective. I'm very, very interested in tribes. I'm very, very interested in groups of people. I've been doing a lot of research over the last number of years, specifically Yuri Harari, E.O. Wilson, a lot of evolutionary biology. I'm fascinated in this notion of human beings moving from egalitarian hunter-gatherer tribes of about 150 for 70,000 years after the cognitive revolution. Human beings came together in these tribes and lived happily, harmoniously by and large. But in those days it was very, very easy to know who your tribe was because it's all you lived with. It's all you knew. You relied on one another to survive, to eat, to live, to sleep, to procreate. That was it. And occasionally you'd have some interactions with other tribes. But for 70,000 years, it was easy to know who your people were, and it was easy to know who you were as part of that tribe. Then as our civilizations grew from hunter-gatherer tribes into chiefdoms, and then finally up to the civilizations that we have today, more and more these tribes get broken up, get broken down, and we're members of